Hello and welcome to my Legends and Legacy show. I am Breda McKeag. I have always been fascinated by inspirational people around the world, and now I am able to bring them directly to you. So listen, learn and get inspired. Hi and welcome to my new series with Legends with Legacy. I'm Breda McKeag. I'm co-founder of Lean in Ireland and chair. I'm a motivational coach, and I have a superb guest to interview today who is going to share his amazing story with all of you. So a big warm welcome to Anthony Trucks. Delighted you're with me today on my little series of my show.
Yeah. I'm excited to be here. I'm not going to lie. I love the accent. I mean, you probably don't think you have an accent because everybody talks like you where you're at, but it's a cool accent. It makes me feel warm. I feel comforted by it.
Good. We are a welcome bunch, us Irish.
I can tell. You know, I just thought of this. My favorite beer is Guinness. I know it's out there. Yeah, my favorite. It's the one I have all the time. Yeah. So I got to get there one day into the actual Guinness factory and have some.
Well, give me a shout when you get this far, Anthony, and I will give you the escorted tour around Dublin. That sound good?
I'm all for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll put an event together and get you over to Dublin when we're all allowed to fly. That would be good.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to do that. I'll wear green and everything. I'll come hang out.
Cool. Well, the reason that I found you, Anthony, is because during the summer, you did a podcast with a lady called Amberly Lego. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
And my attention span is very small, but I actually stopped in my tracks when I heard your story, and I listened to it about 3 times. And then I went and found you again because I struggle to find people with big inspirational stories that will actually hold my attention and really push me out of my comfort zone. And you did that.
Oh, cool. I didn't even know. Thank you.
Yeah. And I listened to a lot of them. And I just thought yours was amazing. And I think coupled with your life story and then where you've gone from that and what you're trying to do now and what impact you're trying to have on the world, I think is just exemplary. And it's something that I have an interest in as well. So I thought, you know what, let's get you over here on my Zoom. Let's have the chat. I want everybody to hear your story, and then I want to get into a little bit more detail.
Definitely, yeah. So, roll into it and tell the story.
Yeah, tell me.
When I was a wee boy back now, is that what you guys say?
Yes, it is. You're getting good.
I'm getting it. Now, when I was a kid, I was 3 years old. And I was given into the foster care system in America. Essentially, foster care is like a one-home orphanage. You know, you're just one house, one family, and man, for a lot of years, I dealt with the system where it were not really nice people. They would beat us, starve us, torture us. I was put in shopping carts and pushed down hills, forced to lick the bottom of people's shoes. So a lot of weird things between the age of 3 and 6. And then at 6 years old, I get put into my family, which is my family now. The unique thing, though, I'm a Black man in an all-white family. So I had a really interesting diversity situation, very, very poor growing up. And so, man, my childhood was very just ridden with difficulty, really unstable, didn't know who I was, struggled a lot. Finally got adopted at 14 because I was able to sever parental rights, which means I had to go look at my real mom and tell her, I don't want you to be my mom anymore, which cut the rights. Really hard to do as a kid because that's what you loved all your life, And so then I got adopted. I got to play football for the first time, American football, which I was really, really bad at. But then I got good after a couple of years. I had a moment in time where I made a commitment to be great. And I figured out what it took to be great. And a lot of it was just sacrificing past pain and discomfort and just following through and being consistent. So I got a football scholarship, which means they paid for my uni. So I got to go play, football at university. You guys call it uni, right? College?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to get this international mind. I know you guys say different words.
Keep going, you're flying.
Yeah. So they let me come play my sport for free. They took care of paying for all my sports. My high school sweetheart, the woman I knew in high school, my girlfriend, she came to college with me. We had a kid. We had our first son at 20 years old, which I do not recommend anybody does. You should probably wait a little bit longer. And, then I had this opportunity, honestly, that I felt great about. Like, I enjoyed being a father because I got to give back to a child in a way that wasn't given to me. He's now 16 years old, driving a car. It's so weird. But now, I get to this moment of like, I have this, I find my real dad, what I know his name. I meet him in my very first game that I got to start and play in college in my uni. And, for a lot of years navigated that. Then I got to the end of my uni career and I got to go play in the NFL, National Football League, highest level in the world for American football. And man, it was crazy. I mean, top of the world, you got, you're on TV and you're all that cool stuff. And then 3 years later, I tear my shoulder and then I lose my career. I have to come home and figure out who am I? How do I be this guy that's happy? Because I lost everything. Not only did I lose football, but then I tried to build this new business and I put all my everything into it. And I was gone from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day. So I wasn't even a present father. My wife and I had two more kids, high school sweethearts still. So now she's at home with two newborns and a 4-year-old, and her husband's gone from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And there's, I'm not making money either. Like I wasn't doing much. So 9 months in, I've lost this career in football. My gym business is looking like it's about to go bankrupt. I'm out of shape. I'm not happy inside, and my wife has an affair. So like my world comes tumbling down, like to the point of I drove off one night and I said, I texted my friends and family. I said, please tell my kids who their father was. Because for me, like if this was life after football, I don't want it. Like when this is what you've got, like why would I want to go and continue down this road if I've already been up one? I know the difference. I felt it, and so man, I thankfully didn't take any actions to end my life, and I had to figure a way to get better. And the problem was I went into a fog. You guys have fog. I'm in the San Francisco
We have
Bay Area.
lots of fog over here.
Yeah. Yep. We have fog in the Bay Area where I
We
live.
have fog.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all part of it. And so then, I call the fog for me, like the life fog is like, I'm just surviving, you go through the motions, you don't feel alive. You're just kind of floating. You're not even going at full pace. You're just kind of there. And in 2014, my adoptive mom, she passed from multiple sclerosis. She had a 17-year battle, and it kind of woke me up a little bit. I realized I got to find a way to fix this. Because what I didn't, most people don't know is about being a foster kid. Statistically, I'm not supposed to do well. In fact, if you look at any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids like me. If you look at America's homeless population, half the homeless population have spent time in foster care, and less than 1% of us ever graduate from uni or college. And so I'm not supposed to do well, but I've made it through all that to the NFL, a business, right? And so she passed away. I'm like, this woman did something special for my life. I got to find some way to make my life better, like in honor of her. And so I had a commitment I made to her, two commitments. One, I got to figure this life thing back out because I know you didn't raise me to be this guy, just kind of going through the motions. And two, when I do cross that line, I do finish it, I'm going to go and help other people the way you helped me. It's just simple commitments. So I had to figure my life out. And I was in a fog for honestly another 2 years, just floating. I was trying to figure it out, but didn't know what I was doing. And eventually it came to a point where, I'm divorced and this business sucks and I'm not, just years of just life sucking, not being very good. I finally snap out of it. I'm like, I don't like this guy. I did not like who I was. I remember at this moment where I'd gone to Russia and I was presenting and I'd met this woman and we talked and, it was very physical, just lustful relationship. She flew back to the States. She didn't speak the same language, could barely talk. And I woke up on New Year's Day, 2016. I remember just looking at her and like nothing wrong with her, but like I felt bad. I had shame. I was like, this is not a person I want my daughter to ever be with. I don't want my sons to be like this guy. My mom would not approve of this man, and my God wouldn't let me into heaven. Like I had fallen really far from my faith, and I snapped out of it. And so in snapping out of it, I had to do a lot of work, like a lot of internal work on not just my mindset, but like my mindset, my pride, my habits, who I saw myself to be, what I wanted my legacy to be, how I want to be remembered when everything's said and done. And it lent to me doing a whole lot of difficult actions, hard conversations, hard ownerships, hard sacrifices. And in doing so, fast forward like 9 months, after 3 years divorce, my wife and I got back together. We're still together, an amazing marriage 4 years later. I have a business that is thriving. My kids have a father that's present. I'm in good shape. Like I enjoy my life and I get to go give that back to the world in amazing ways. And mostly I appreciate the fact that I get to do what I promised my mom. I fixed my stuff, figured it out. And now I get to give, this message and this kind of process back to other people to help them get to another level for their life, more potential, more happiness, more joy.
Yeah. And your story also resonated with me because my mum was orphaned at the age of 7 and she
Oh,
was
wow.
one of 9 kids. So they were left without parents. So she had some of those experiences, maybe not exactly the same as you had, but she had some. And my auntie was a foster parent, so I've seen a lot of foster kids, which again I think is why I find your story so probably relatable.
Mm-hmm.
And the rebuild piece. So when you said there that you recognize that you didn't like this guy, so you had turned into something that you didn't want to be. The process of that rebuild is a fascinating process. It's one I've been through myself, and I think mastering yourself and trying to understand how you got there is the
Mm-hmm.
first piece. Um,
Huge.
and you can go from there. So I suppose for me, the awareness is step one there. So when
Mm-hmm.
you realize that, then that's
Yeah.
when you can start to figure out, okay, how did this happen to me? How did I get here? And then
Yeah.
work out. You got to go back a lot, I think, and dig into conditioning and dig into programming and understand how all of that has been working in your
All the time.
subconscious mind and
Yeah.
understand what a subconscious mind is. I mean, they don't teach us this stuff in school,
No, nobody tells you.
and nobody knows this unless they've ran into an emotional wall in life,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
is what happened to me as well in my past. So I've had to learn all this too. Um,
Mm-hmm. We
and
all
yet,
do.
when you give people these tools and educate them on all of the subconscious mind, the conditioning, the programming, the conscious mind, how they're making decisions, when they learn all of that, they can actually change their entire world. They can
Mm-hmm.
transform.
They can. I think at the end of the day, that's the one thing people need is it's kind of like the aha moments. I call it that. There's always some things that happen in our lives, and I think a lot of people have things happen, but they don't look at them the right way. So I think people think because I'm old, I have wisdom, and I don't think it's the case. I think because you're old, you have experiences, but you don't get wisdom until you take a look at the experiences. And so if you can learn to break them down a little bit differently, understand what took place, now you create wisdom and you can do something from. But there's a lot of people that will live their entire life having experiences but have no wisdom and no reason to adjust or to change. And they'll just get used to this and accept what they have and assume it's the most they can have. And it's like having a cup that can be it's like having a 16-ounce cup that can hold all of this liquid, but living your entire life with 4 ounces.
Yeah.
And it's not realizing there's so much more in there.
It's like all our laptops. They can do so
Yeah.
much, yet we don't know how to use them and we
Hmm.
don't use the half of the potential. I think our
Yeah.
minds are exactly like that because our
Hmm.
minds are a wealth of imagination, curiosity, creativity. And
Yeah.
yet most people don't go there. They
Mm-mm.
actually suppress that. And I
Yeah.
think that is suppressed because of fear. I've learned the level of fear in people's lives is having such a dramatic impact on their outcomes. And yet
Hmm.
nobody talks about the different types of fear. None, no, like nobody teaches you that until
No, no, no.
you've got to get in there and rebuild yourself. You start to learn
Yeah.
all these things.
Yeah. It's a discussion nobody has. Unfortunately, we have a world of social media and society where you have to be the greatest all the time. And, God forbid anybody ever sees you sweat. Because if they do, man, then who are you going to be? And so there's a big issue, I think, with people not wanting to look like they're struggling or have less than. But we'll talk about times when we're successful. We'll talk about when we were struggling. But when we're struggling, we won't talk about that we're struggling. You know what I mean? It's weird. So you end up taking far too long to be successful if you ever make it. And a lot of it just boils down to that it's a pride issue, man. It's an ego thing. I call ego everyone's greatest obstacle, ego. And if you have the ego and it's running you in a negative way, you're end up stuck in that place far longer than you need to be.
Yeah, and ego. I can see egos, and I all I can see is disappointment because if you've got a massive ego, then it means you're ignorant to everything that you're never going to learn because
Hmm.
you won't even open that door. You
Yeah.
will assume you are right and you know it all, and therefore you
Hmm.
can't be taught.
Yeah. Close
It's
it
a
off.
dead end.
Yeah. You close off people who tell you things too. Because usually what happens is somebody will tell you something you need to hear, and the ego will try to protect the place you're at. So it'll make excuses and it'll show up in ways that becomes detrimental to relationships. So that the people who could be a wealth of knowledge to your betterment, they end up just checking out. They have no desire to help you because they don't feel like having an argument every time they tell you something you need to hear. A lot of my work dials into that first starting point for people. We start with understanding like what is your invisible chain? What is the thing that's got you stuck and stagnant, that you have a blind spot? Because if you can't see that, and you can't admit and give yourself permission to not do really well, permission to be operating poorly, you'll never give yourself permission to improve because to improve means there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong, so why would I get any better? So what you do is you have accepted, and people that are there, you've accepted your life is as good as it'll ever be. That's it. If I don't got to get any better, I'm accepting that this is the best it gets. And that's a really tough place for me to accept myself.
Yeah. And I'd also, to that point, I have seen people where I've sort of tried to go there with them because I can see all of their outputs and their
Hmm.
outcomes are a disaster. So, and they can't understand why their life goes wrong in so many ways. And
Hmm.
yet, when you try to sort of open that door with them to see where their conditioning is at and what kind of childhood, what kind of programming is in there, and what kind of
Hmm.
biases they have, they get defensive. And I think they
Yeah.
call it cognitive dissonance because
Hmm.
what I've seen is so many people have created scripts and rationale.
Hmm.
And they've gone through life, and when life has been tough on them, they have decided that it wasn't their fault, and this is why that has happened. And
Yeah,
they've
it's an
got
excuse.
a suite of scripts. I've seen
Mhm.
people, I can see their mind reverting to them, and
Yeah.
they will tell themselves, well, "That's this script," and they cannot be moved from that, and
Hmm.
therefore you can't help them. So you can
Yeah.
see what needs to happen there, and yet they won't let you even help them. They
Yeah.
get defensive, which is so sad because you watch
It
their
is.
whole life and you know where that life's going. Nowhere.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It gets to a tough point. There's a statement that I love, and it says, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement.
Yeah.
But there's always a space to go. And you're right. There's a level, if you look at Eric Erickson's work and the psychosocial structure of how our brain's going to flow, there are levels where at certain points we kind of accept that this is who we are. It's called role versus identity confusion. And we go into this world where we know who we think we are. And we're met with this aspect of, man, we have all the programming up until now. And then we go off into the world we're not prepared for. And we're in sheer survival, making things happen as they happen. And it's kind of like a computer being programmed. The computer was programmed and then it stopped updating when you were 15, 16. It just was set. And you've now been running this life for 30 years, 20 years off the same program where the rest of the world's progressed on. You're still stuck handling problems the same ways, the relationship the same way, self love the same way, confidence the same way, learning the same way. And yeah, so what you do is the script you're talking about, it was programmed by teachers, preachers, lovers, friends, family. It just always was done, and nobody really goes back and takes a look and says, well, if I'm taking a look at the way my life runs, it's usually a product of how I operate unconsciously, the things I say, the way I believe stuff. So that programming you're talking about, it happens at a very young age, and it's not intentional. It happens. It's not even a bad thing. It just has to happen. But those who are more successful are the ones that went back and said, oh, okay, well, for me to admit I have to work on something doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It just means that there's a better way for me to do things. I can improve. Like we update our computers, right? We fix we upgrade our cars. We put things in the systems that work better. We put better gas. We put new tires. Like we can update everything around us, but God forbid we update ourselves,
Yeah.
right? So it's very interesting because then you leave a lot of success and joy and what could be there on the table. And what's worse is we see it. We see on social media, we see on TV people having things we don't have. And then it boils down to two excuses as to why it takes place. And what we do in our own head is we say, okay, well, excuse number one is, well, you know what? I have something wrong I got to work on. I don't have that because I'm not working very well and I need to be doing something better. And, I kind of suck at this thing. The problem is that's a very, very difficult one for people to accept. They don't want to. No one wants to admit that they're not doing something amazing. They'll say they're not perfect, but their words don't show that they're not perfect because they make excuses as to why something happened, like you just said. The other option is, which most people accept and they take this whole other option, is they say, well, what if I just demonize that thing? What if I talk bad about it and talk bad about their success and they were just lucky. Their mom and dad helped them out. They don't know enough. I don't even know I know more than them. They make excuses to bring that person down to their level so they don't have to raise their level up to theirs.
Yeah.
That's typically the one or two options. And like 90% of people, they choose option two. And then what happens is you stay stuck. You can try and bring them to your level, but when the smoke clears, the fog clears, you take a look up, they're still up there. You try to bring them down, they bounce back up. You're still down here. So it's better to choose option one and say, all right, what do I got to do to get to that level, whether I like it or not?
Awesome stuff. And what drives me nuts, and it's a little alarm bell, and it should be an alarm bell for people. I'm not sure it is, But say if I'm having a conversation with someone and I'm saying to them, why don't you do X, Y, or Z? And they'll say, oh, no, I couldn't do that. It's just not who I am. Or
Mm-hmm.
some of them say to me, it's just not the way I am. Right. And these things just, I do thinking, oh, Jesus, because if I think back to childhood, and again, like we're talking about conditioning here, right? And you were talking there about all our programming from young ages, right? But I actually wouldn't have realized that I had childhood programming in my subconscious mind impacting my decisions until I had to go back and dig and
Yeah.
understand what that was. So to be honest with you, I think most people think when we talk about, you know, stuff that you picked up in your childhood that's now impacting you in adulthood, I think they think that when you're talking about childhood, that only relates to those who were abused in childhood.
No.
And in fact, it's the total opposite, because I wasn't. I was actually reared in a very healthy family, very kind.
Yeah.
But one thing I have learned, Anthony, is that my programming when I got into adulthood was the programming that the adults around me were displaying when I was a kid. Now, if we
Yeah.
think of the age of that programming, so their views, their biases, and I'm 44, right? So like 40 years ago, I was picking all of this up at the age of 4. And presumably they picked it all up from, you know, the adult in their life who was perhaps 40 years. So you're going back generations. And
Yeah.
if you don't stop that programming and that sort of continuous bias and continuous negative loop and negative thinking, then you just repeat it. And what worries me is I see parenting like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I had like part of my own self-mastery journey was thinking about how am I parenting here? Because if I don't change the parenting that I got, then I'm default parenting. And
Yeah.
is that really going to serve kids in this century? You know, going forward, their whole industry is going to be different. Their lives are totally different. I can't parent them the way I was parented. That won't work.
Even nowadays, with like, it's interesting discussion that I have with my kids because they live in this world where everything's technology and tablets and all that kind of stuff. And in my world, you needed to talk to each other face to face, right? It's a different dynamic, and what a lot of parents do, and this is every generation, I believe. It's just different now with technology. You never had technology like we have it in the past in any other generation. So it's like all these kids listen to Elvis Presley. That's the devil's music, right? It's just different things. Whereas now it's different. When I want my kids to talk to each other, or do certain things, or be off electronics, it's kind of like saying you aren't prepared for this world we're in right now, and they're not. But they're also 11 and 16, and they're not. They don't have to have careers. However, I do realize, man, if all the kids are doing this, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, if I keep them off of these devices completely, and do I stunt their emotional and social growth for a world that I'm never going to be in myself? The world
Exactly.
they're about to go into is not the world I was in. But most parents are preparing their kids for that world. And I think that's a disservice to your children for the future. Now, I'm not saying let them be on tablets all day. There's always going to be people. We've always got to be able to have this conversation and talk, whether it's a boss or a colleague or a client or sales. That's human to human interaction is always going to exist. But there are certain things of like, they need to understand how to have, like, to understand the UI of a platform. Can
Yeah.
they log on to a system and understand how to navigate that thing? That may make or break their ability to have a job in the future, whether or not they can navigate TikTok or Facebook. You know what I mean? Because that's the foundation. So if you talk about 3 levels up, like if they don't have this, because I kept them off of tablets, they can't succeed in the career they have because now they use some new Fango Jango app that, you know, does something special. So there's unique differences, and yeah, you can't. I don't think anybody can actually look at being a parent, if you're going to be a good parent, and not take into account that your kids are not going to live in your future.
To that point, that's exactly where I've landed with the balance with my kids, because if you keep them from it, then you're going to keep them ignorant from that
Mhm.
entire world.
Yeah.
If you let them into it too much, then you could expose them to danger. So you've got to get a balance where they know how to navigate that world, they know how to live within it as well,
Mhm.
and yet try and keep them that they can also do the relationship person to person piece, and then work on their emotional intelligence, because I didn't get any emotional intelligence coaching as a kid, and
There
I
you go.
could have done with it. I just think, imagine if we took all of the kids in the world and taught them emotional intelligence, and then when they get to adulthood and they start hitting those emotional walls, they are techniques. They're schooled for this. They're tooled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas,
Yeah.
you know, all I see is in our world is people on antidepressants so much, and they're just, we are riddled with anxiety. We are riddled with depressions of different types. And I often wonder, did we do a disservice to those kids? We didn't teach them any of this. We've taught them history and geography, and I get that those are important subjects.
Yeah.
But if you know, I'm doing a lot of coaching, I do an awful lot of work online, and I see so much pain and so much hurt out there right now. And I'm just, you know, when I teach them some emotional intelligence tools and some self-mastery, I actually built my own little methodology, because
Good.
I was trying to figure out, well, what did I do so that I can lift that and shift that
You have to.
somebody else? And
Mhm.
so I built this little thing that shows you when you're a kid, the kind of conditioning and what you've absorbed. And then when you get to adulthood, the kind of things you run into as a result of what happened in that childhood.
You gotta have I mean, people don't have the pass through. They're never gonna understand what's going on. It's like having a decoder ring, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't understand, because the thing is this, we are all being somebody every single day as a verb. We're doing certain things. And I think people fail to comprehend that the being becomes somebody. And
Yeah.
most of our life, we never thought about who we were being every day. We do things, you know, we show up to work and we say certain stuff and we get mad at certain things and we will anchor our identity to whatever that thing is. You know, this is my, you know, my football club. This is who I follow. This is, you know, this is my job. It's who I am. This is my relationship. It's who I am. And we commit to that. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But we get to the back end, you know, 50s, and we have those called a midlife crisis. And I believe that the midlife crisis comes because we're being somebody our whole life that our boss or mom or colleagues told us to be. And then we became this person and took a look in the mirror one day and said, I don't know who I am. I never thought about who I was being. And so a lot of I think we should do as humans is once you get to a point of awareness, you know, consciousness about what's going on, which we're in a world where you can do that. This, if they're listening to this podcast here, you're getting some conscious enlightening. So are you prepared to pull back the curtain and take a look and say, hey, who am I being every day? And if I don't like who I'm being, maybe I change it, because who you're being is going to become somebody. And I recommend you are having a plan or some process so you are aware of who you will become.
And that brings me to something I wanted to ask your opinion on,
Mhm.
because I only see people delving into the world of emotional intelligence or self-mastery when they've hit the emotional wall. And I've
Yeah.
had so many conversations with so many people. So they'll say to me, Breda, what is it you're doing? You're thriving. So when I
Yeah.
start to tell them what I'm doing, you can see them glaze over. And what I've learned is, until people are in pain, they
Yeah.
won't actually want to learn this stuff, because this stuff is hard yards.
Yeah. They're in pain,
Yet,
yes.
and yet it's transformational. And anybody that I meet that has been through the tough stuff and have had to go back to their conditioning and rebuild themselves
Yeah.
always end up the exceptions in the world. They end up being
Yeah.
the thought leaders of the world. They end
Yeah.
up being successful in every way. And
Hmm.
yet you and I are sitting here
Hmm.
teaching people stuff, and I can guarantee you some of them will not bother to listen, and some of them will not do any of the pieces that we talked about here, because
Yeah.
there isn't enough pain there to make them do it.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. You've said it perfectly. There's a story about, you know, in America, there's a story, and I don't know who told me this story, but I love this story. It's come up a lot recently, but you know, story about this guy. He's driving around the countryside in America, and you know, he comes up to this, you know, this area where he can't find how to get gas. He sees some guy sitting in his house on a rocking chair with a dog next to him, and he parks his car and he gets out and he hears kind of this, it's moaning. And he kind of like looks in the direction. It's in the farmer's direction. So he starts walking that way, and the farmer's rocking back and forth. And hears that same that noise again, that moaning. He gets up and he kind of, you know, asks the farmer, "Hey, do you know how to get to the closest gas station?" And he hears it, and to the right side of the farmer on the ground is a dog moaning. And the farmer goes, "Yeah, you go down that street right there. You're gonna make a left at the top, and you're gonna hook around. You're gonna see the gas station there on the left hand side." And then he hears again, and he goes, "Hey, is that the dog?" "Yeah, it's the dog." "Why is the dog moaning?" "Well, you know, she's sitting on a nail." "Well, why didn't she just get off the nail?" "Well, I guess it just doesn't hurt bad enough." So a lot of people are running their lives and they're in a situation where there is this nail. The moaning is, "I don't like this job. I don't like my body. You know, I don't like my future. I don't like my relationship." And there's this moaning. But for
Yeah.
some reason, people, it doesn't hurt bad enough to get off of it. Because the reality is, what if that dog is missing, some amazing meal it's put outside, or missing the chance to go meet another dog, because it's just sitting on this nail, because it can put up with it. And I
Yeah.
think for a lot of people, you hit the nail on the head. They're always in a state of perpetual just being okay.
Yeah.
And I think at a certain point, people have to stop being okay with
Yeah.
being okay. When you
Yeah.
realize that there's more out there and you can go after it, then you go. But then, not many people do it. And that's unfortunate. People miss out on what life is. There's no better time to be a human being than now. Like the technology allows us to do things that no other human society and generation could do. Travel. You're in Ireland right now.
Yes.
You're in the other side of the world, damn near, and I'm talking to you
Yeah.
second by second from California.
Yeah.
This was not feasible. This would have been magic 60 years ago. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It
Like,
might have been magic a year ago, Anthony.
really, you know what I'm saying? Like,
All in conference halls, and now we've
yeah,
got time to do this.
exactly. So,
Like,
like, take advantage of the world, people.
do you know what I think, right? Having been through my journey, what I studied all of the people that I consider successful in the world, those who have massive legacies and those who really make a difference in the world.
Mhm.
And I try to figure out, why does everybody not want to be that?
Mm.
And then I started looking at, well, what was around me before I started my self-mastery journey, and what was around me was fairly average.
Mhm.
And then I started to figure out that that's why I was aiming for fairly average, because that's what I was seeing around me,
Yeah,
right?
100%. Yeah,
And I remember as a teenager, in like, I was reared on a farm in Monaghan, and I remember being desperate and hungry for somebody to inspire me. But I was
yeah,
on a farm, and I am not cut out for farming, right? Um, and I'm looking at all these teenagers now, and they've got the internet. And the
yeah,
internet is where I found the people to inspire me. I
yeah.
found Sheryl Sandberg on the internet. I ended
Mhm.
up joining the Lean In organization that she set up. And I've been to California actually 2 years ago in Palo Alto to one of
Yeah,
the conferences that she ran. But none of that would have happened without me going to look for these exceptional people, reading
yeah,
about them, getting inspired by them, and wondering why everybody else was not doing that.
yeah.
But that's what I ended up with the assumption that they're seeing so much average around them. And I'm a devil for vision boards. I don't know if you do vision boards, do you?
I have no, I have different ways. I do envision, but I don't put it onto a board.
Okay. Yeah. And I do it on boards, um, because I think it does something to your mind when you can see the pictures and the words.
Yeah,
It becomes a lot more than a fleeting thought. And I've
real.
had yeah, I run little lean in circles. So I take people into groups of 8 to 12 and I make them mentor each other.
Mhm.
And one of those sessions we did vision boards,
Yeah,
and out of half of that group had done vision boards with me. And I probably coached them to make sure that they were going blue sky enough, because
yeah,
again, the danger is they'll go average, right?
yeah.
So
They
the
go with the,
vision
yeah,
boards were starting to look quite average to me, and I'm
yeah,
going, it's not what we're doing here. Yeah. So I was saying, right, so what would the best in the world in that look like? And
yeah,
then making them do that. But anyway, half of them text me within about 2 months to
yeah,
say, I don't know what you done to me that day, but I've just been offered a new job with a pay rise I didn't ask for, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going,
yeah,
Jesus, what have I done?
yeah, yeah. It's a good
I
thing.
didn't realize it was going to do that to them. I was just trying to see, could I get them a little bit out of the average stuff and
Yeah.
pushing them to aim for awesome.
Well, yeah. I think everybody, there's that statement that you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself
Yeah.
with,
And
and
you are.
I think you are, but I believe you aren't to an extent. I believe you really are. Is you're the average of the expectations of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So I could be sitting around millionaires right now. That's great. Their expectation is I'm great at $1 million, and you'd think great people. But what if your dreams to have $1 billion? Well, the expectations, if they're not there, that group won't raise you there. And
Yeah.
so if the expectation you call average, the expectation is what it is. There's people think, good people, bad people. There's great people who don't have high expectations. I
Yeah.
have friends like that. There's some people in my circle, love them as human beings to death, but
Yeah.
they're not the people I go around when I want to achieve more business wise.
Yeah.
I got to go to the people whose expectations are like, hey, I'm not okay being okay. I didn't come this far to just get this far, right?
Yep.
And there is something to that. And once you find a way to press into it and then accept that it's okay to want more, like then your game changes, then the world changes. And I agree with you. There's a level of people that have got to get to that level. And then like you're talking about the dream board vision, like I write things down a lot. I got a lot of like palpable visions I have. And some people are big on boards. And I think there is something to journaling, putting it on paper, because now it becomes real. You've made it a real thing. But you are right. They will unfortunately set dreams to what they can see.
Yeah.
And the problem is your dream is around the bend. So if you're only planning on what you can see at the corner down there, what you'll find is you'll get to it, and then you'll finally be able to see around the bend and go, oh damn, I could have got that this whole time. And I was over here, tic-tac and slow going. No, like think about what's around the bend. And typically what I do is find somebody above me, just a level above, like they did with you,
Yeah.
that has seen around the bend. So when I'm like, I want to make, I want to make $1 million. Why not make two? Why not make 10? Right? Or I want to, I want to start I don't know, I want to start a small hot dog stand. Why can't you start a hot dog brick and mortar business? Why can't you franchise it someday? Why can't you stretch it a little bit? Doesn't mean you do it, but start with that end in mind. Because what happens is, say you do have that end in mind. What I've always noticed is around that bend, it's not a single path, it's a fork in the road. So, or that around the path is a distance I was shooting for. I may get to that corner and go, oh, wait, there's another path. Wow, I can go here. Forget that. I want to go here now, right? I think that's life. It's getting yourself in positions to arrive at new forks in a road because you shot far enough to be able to actually go down that path.
And one of my favorite quotes is, if you aim for the moon, you land amongst the stars.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you've just described. And I remember reading that and going, oh, okay. So
Yeah, it's
I'm
cool.
just trying it, just testing, thinking, that has been programmed in there. And it's not a big deal. And it's just literally trying to test what do I think about that? And could I try that? And just taking baby steps, baby brave steps, bit by bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's what it should be. You got to eat the elephant one bite at a time, man. You can't go ahead and kill it all and try to scarf in your throat. You'll choke. So little by little.
So say I had 14-year-old Anthony here, who's been through a world of pain, and I showed him this video of you and some of your other pieces and your coaching programs and all of the success that you're having with that. What do you think he would say?
What would he say? It would look like magic, man. 14-year-old Ant didn't have many big dreams. He didn't. You got to think though, as a foster kid, you're not being told by the world that you matter, that anything's possible. I don't even know anybody to this day. There are very few people I know that have gone through my past and have succeeded at anywhere near my level.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that in a way that's like, it's sad. It saddens me. I don't say it like I'm great. I say it like, man, it sucks. Because us kids, when we go through that craziness, I love the statement of a smooth sea makes not a skilled sailor. Right? There are I navigated some rough seas. There's a lot of kids that navigate rough seas when they're kids. Yeah. But the problem is they think that that they're not capable of manning the ship. So what they do is they end up being criminals or doing dumb stuff. And it's like, no, like you don't realize it's a superpower. Yeah. Because my life sucked early on, I learned how to be charismatic, how to communicate, how to go after what I wanted, how to realize it's got to be on me, how to be okay being self-sufficient, have a sense of confidence about myself to solve problems. It's a superpower. When I go up against people that are in my same world or who are, in my same industry, and it's me versus them, there's a different level of drive that I can pull out that they can't touch. Yeah. And that's because of the hardships. And so, man, like I really wish there was more of a perspective change and switch for kids like me that can just grasp it differently. Because and everybody's thing, you don't have to have gone through foster care to get that. Your life alone, people's lives alone are hard enough to be able to grasp, like, I got something special. And then you can go and do something great, man. But you got to first accept there's something great in you somehow.
And look, I wasn't in foster care, but my 14-year-old version would not have believed that I was going to go on to do the things I did. I ended up in the reserve army in Ireland in the infantry. Cool. And I became their first female lieutenant in the unit that I was in. And it was a whole different world. I had no military background or anything. And then, so that was 20 years I did that. So I was firing grenades and mortars and everything. And I loved it. And I had super fun amongst all of the lads. I had a great time. And then I joined a rock band just coming up at the age of 40. I've done so many mad things, and all of the talks I've done and the MCing and all of the things, I'd never dreamed of doing all of that at age 14. And the reason that I wanted to bring that up is, wonder what other 14-year-olds are out there watching this.
Yeah.
Like, you've no idea how amazing your life can be, or the opportunities that you are going to be able to create. And 14-year-olds are not thinking like that. They're probably, you know, being hard on themselves.
Yeah, very much so. Especially if nobody to love and care for you. It's a lot. That's the thing, is I think that the world has a ton of opportunity. You just have to realize that you got to be prepared for it when it comes there by working hard in the moments where you can't see it. So 14-year-old Anthony wouldn't think it's real.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I could tell him something like, hey man, like, here's the thing, I'm standing here, I'm a real guy. This is real life. You got one of these things to live, man. And here's what I tell people this all the time. There is no guarantee you'll have success if you work hard. There isn't. Like, I cannot guarantee you'll succeed. I can guarantee you'll have a small bit of success, but I don't know how much. I can't guarantee it. What I can guarantee is if you do nothing, you'll have none.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's your choice. You can choose to do nothing and guarantee you have nothing, or choose to do something with an opportunity to have success. And here's the kicker. Because so few people choose that, your percentages are way higher than you think.
Yes. So that's our message to all of those teenagers out there. Get a bit of belief in yourself and back yourself. Doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You can turn into Anthony.
Or you, anybody.
Or me,
your own version of you, just better. That's really it.
So because you've been through all of that, and I know that you do a lot of coaching, and you've got this coaching program, which us Irish love the name of, the shift method. Tell us about that, Anthony.
Yeah, well, the shift's kind of like a car, like a gear shift in a car, right? You shift gears, so to speak. So the idea around the work I do, it's about making shift happen, which it's the idea of making something, making SHIT, making something great happen in your life in any capacity, right? And usually what it boils down to is people just, they lack what we've been talking about. There's not the self-belief. There's not a clear path. There's no plan. There's no execution, no consistency. They need to make a shift at a core level. So when I say the shift method, what it really is, it's shifting the internal aspect of how you operate. Like that system we talked about, is going back and saying, who am I being? Who do I want to become? So we go back and we shift that. It's beliefs, thoughts, actions, habits, mindset, ego. We shift who you are internally so you can change your life outside. And it's not all thought. It's not all like, be happy. A lot of it boils down to, we're going to plan that your whole entire, this idea, we're going to plan it down to every 15 minutes of your day. How does it look? And when that's done and you put it into the world, people make crazy, amazing things happen. They make shift happen, we call it. They run businesses that are great. They fix their marriage. They get in shape. All of it together, not just one thing. Like, you get people that literally, they wake up, a few months or a year later and their life is unrecognizable. And it's nothing more than teaching them sometimes to do what they already know how to do, but they aren't doing. People, most of the time, if you ask them, hey, what should you do? They'll tell you the answer. Are you doing it? Nah, I'm not doing it. Okay, well, a lot of my work is just getting you to do what you already know. And then the kind of, we'll call it the gasoline in the fire, or the turbo boost, is giving you more information towards launching a business, fixing a marriage. Because now when you know how to do things, anything that I give you or that you invest in or that you buy, it now actually works for you. Most people buy stuff. Most people spend all time addicted to strategies, but never addicted to the execution of it. I want to get the next strategy, next program, next system, but they don't get addicted to doing it. If you had an addiction to doing things, you wouldn't even need to buy half the stuff you buy anymore. You'd already have the success.
And my little sort of equation for all of this is visualization plus massive action equals outcomes. Yeah. And it's the action bit where most people get stuck.
Well, it's a piece of it. Here's the thing that I learned from football. Because it's American football is a hard sport, man. It's crazy, but there's always this level of, you have to, like you talked about, vision boarding. Yeah. You gotta set a plan that inspires you, man. Like if somebody says we're gonna go on an 8-hour trip, first question you're gonna ask is what? What would you ask me?
Where are we going?
Exactly. 1,000. No one's ever answered it differently. It's 8 hours? Where are we going? Right. Yeah. And if I say, we're gonna go to this the garbage dumps, we're gonna go look at trash and smell it, I don't want to go there. Or if I say 8 hours, we're going to go to the most beautiful mansion overlooking this amazing, cavernous area with, great lakes and there's great food, I want to go. Let's go. That sounds great, right?
I'm in the back of the truck.
Yeah, let's go to work, right? I want to go. I'll take the 8-hour trip. But most people realize where they want to go is an 8-hour trip. It's long, right? But they haven't set a destination they want to go to that's clear, that draws their heart, that's realistic. So first thing we do is we clarify what that is. We get rid of blind spots and navigate it. But then the next piece is, all right, and what's the path? How do you know how to get there? Yeah. Here's the plan, right? People need a plan.
Yeah.
Most people buy planners. They buy these amazing planners, right?
Yes.
But they have no idea how to plan. Like it boggles my mind. I sit down and people are like, hey, so what are you gonna? I'm gonna do this next month, that next. Okay, great. Let me see next Friday at 3:00. What do you have going on? I don't know. Then you're not planning because you don't even know when's it gonna get done, right? So you're hoping, and willpower tells you you're just gonna commit to it next week. But then you could commit to eating a Burger King burger, or you can commit to watching TV and switch it up like that because it'll feel better. So most people have. So I teach them, like football. We had to strategically plan at the world-class level. What are we doing? What happens on this play? How are we going to execute that play? What's going to take place? What are the audibles in the moment of things changing? Because life changes. What are the audibles, right? Then we get to the game we can play. And then here's the next piece. Some people have great vision boards, great plans, but they don't execute. They get to the moment of, and they procrastinate, make an excuse. It's too hard, get distracted. Something comes over them. They get overwhelmed. And so what I found is, like in football, every single play, I had to execute the plan against pain of getting my body hurt, against a fear of failure for looking stupid, against anguish. Like it's fear of what can go wrong. But every play, you still got to buckle up the helmet and go. You can't sit there. So football teaches you, and all sports in life, how to just execute. But then here's the kicker. You can do it a couple plays, but I'm not going to win that game unless I can do it every single play and wear you down. So the last piece of it, which most people fail to really get to, and I mean, this is the game changer, consistency.
Yeah.
Do you have disgusting discipline and consistency? The people who I know who win have a disgusting level of discipline. It sickens you, the fact they've been doing something for so long and never fallen off. But that's the momentum that creates that motion, that creates the action and the opportunity and the success. So a lot of people that they get into stuff, they don't know how to be able to stay consistent. They don't know what it looks like, how it should feel, how to get to the point of this. That consistency will change your life. It's consistency doing very specific actions that make you have the success you want. However, if it's always difficult, if it's always hard, you'll eventually burn out because it drains you. But when you can get to the point where at an identity level, you shift to it being who you are to do it, now it's easy. So who's going to win? The person who is beating their head against the wall to do that thing, or the person who it's easy and they actually enjoy it? Well, the person who enjoys it. So guess who has the success? That person. And that's why successful people make it look easy, because to them it is. So in my shift method, we go through the different stages: C, shift, sustainment. Really, we're looking at how do we get you to set a clear picture, craft a very strategic plan to the process that we use, how to be able to execute in the moments when you need to, take audibles, make the adjustment, really push yourself through with understanding how and why. And then how do we get people to stay so consistent that one day they wake up and they realize, like, holy crap, I'm a different human. I don't know when, but it happened. And this success is easy now.
Yeah, it's all habits. And I think we can train people. I think if we vision and we have the plan, then it's no longer fleeting thoughts. It's a plan.
Oh,
And then I think the trick is, when you've got the plan and you've got it scheduled and you're scheduled away ahead of time, you do have to do things that you don't want to do. Something in that schedule you don't want to do, but you've got to make yourself do it. And I think if your pull is strong enough, as in your purpose and the why that you're doing it, then you will make yourself do it. That's how I work.
It's a lot of it's all woven into the work we do. It the best way to think of it, it's a lot of thinking. We do a lot of thinking, and then we take the thinking and make it actionable. That's what most people don't do. Is they think a lot and they plan a lot, and it's all good and well, but nobody does anything. And that's not how you make shift happen. That's not how you do it. You gotta go out there and do specific things. And there's a lot of different processes and ways. I just always look at the goal for me is to get someone to grasp there's what's called the hero's two journeys. There's achievement and the transformation. Everybody's trying to achieve something, but they don't realize at the same time you're transforming into somebody new while you do it. When you accomplish something at the end, you're a different person. And people don't grasp that or plan for that. And in fact, if I want to achieve something, I need to transform who I am inside to achieve it in the first place. I have to do something different as a person, or I already have it. And then if I want to transform, I need to achieve something so I can complete a transformation. So they're not separate. People shouldn't be just like, I need a strategy of how to make this business run or how to fix this thing or yeah, you're going to get that's free. It's all out there. You can get a lot of that, but you're not doing it yet, are you? No, I'm not doing it. Then there's people who say, I want to transform. I want to wake up one day and feel like I'm just amazing and never have any motivation issues. Always be motivated, always be happy, always be in joy. Okay, good luck with that, because I don't know how you're going to do that. They happen together. It's like two lines that cross, and they're always using each other to go. You achieve, so you transform, so you achieve more, and you achieve more, so you transform, and back and forth. And that's what I do. It's an identity level work that I get into. It's not just ideas and concepts. A lot of it's like, let's work through thinking, and now let's go take this stuff and put the damn thing into action.
Well, Anthony, it has been a pleasure. I have really enjoyed the conversation. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm in America. You got to come over here and come knock on my door.
I will go over tomorrow.
I am.
July time would suit.
There you go.
I'll have a vaccine by then.
Yeah, come on. If they let you out of your country, they won't even maybe let you in here. You get a quarantine.
I know.
Yeah, no, the best way to find me is on Instagram. If you go to @AnthonyTrucks on Instagram, great place to find me, or www.anthonytrucks.com.
Yeah. And all of your details are there. And I think everybody should hit that like button and follow you and start learning. All of the material that you put up there is really quality stuff. And everybody we meet has something that can teach us. And you sure have something that we can learn from. So, Anthony, it's been a pleasure.
Same here. Thank you for having me.
Really enjoyed having you. Thanks so much, Anthony.
Welcome.